Yoda versus a dark side user 1,000 meters tall. You might think that Yoda's greatest duel was the one he had against Darth Sidious. He was able to stalemate the most powerful Sith Lord in the galaxy, and for a brief moment, almost seemed like he could defeat him. It's hard to imagine Yoda fighting an even more impressive foe, but he did. In the twilight of the Old Republic, Jedi Master Yoda came face to face with a Force user over a mile tall, and he defeated him. This is that story. Yoda had come to an uncharted planet in the Vega system after sensing a great disturbance in the Force. While there, he fought with a group of natives who had achieved Force sensitivity by using a mysterious blue stone. The natives captured Yoda and imprisoned him in a nearby mountain, which was entirely composed of the same blue material. While trying to escape the mountain, Yoda met another prisoner, Garo, and together they came to a startling conclusion. The Force-sensitive mountain was not only flowing with great power, but was alive. That wasn't a mountain, it was a creature. And the blue stone that was the source of their power wasn't just minerals, it was flesh. A rockhawker, which was the tribe that controlled the mountain, and oppressed fellow child tribe, the Mudwalkers. Garo quickly turned on Yoda to tell his fellow enemies of the mountain's new development. What was more worrying was the fact that Garo taught the brutish rockhawkers how to communicate with the mountain and use it for their evil means. If that great power was in the right hands, the mountain could be a world-ending adversary. While inside the mountain, Yoda and Garo had communed with its spirit and revitalized it. But the planet's natives took it a step further. They used the Force to instill their own rivalry with a nearby tribe into the mountain's heart. Eventually, the time came and the huge mountain erupted into life, creating explosions of stone and dust across the range. A huge, hundreds of meters tall structure began to thrash and move from its plant in the ground. It was a seismic effect that was felt across the planet, and of course at the camp of the enemy across the plains, a group of more peaceful children known as the Mudwalkers. Yoda managed to escape to the camp of the Mudwalkers and told the village of children to meditate and commune with the living mountains of their planet in order to stop the seemingly inevitable conflict. But it couldn't be avoided. As the ground quaked, almost as if it would crack apart at any moment, Yoda walked out onto the plains to confront the now walking giant. As he set off, the Jedi Master, known as one of the most powerful of all time, was unsure as to whether he would actually return. The difference in height between the two Force users could not have been more on either end of the scale. If you looked with your bare eyes, you couldn't see more than the bottom of the giant's leg before having to turn your head upward. And even then, you would only be able to see up to the giant's waist. That's how massive it was. Though the dwarf Jedi Master showed no fear, in fact, he made it clear that he understood the fear the rock monster must have been feeling. It had just been reawoken and brought into a strange new world. Its first emotions were evil and twisted. While Yoda tried to console it and offered it compassion, it responded with indifference.
You are less than a bug to me.
The mountain's voice resonated throughout the entire planet as it roared like lava from a volcano exploding. As rocks collapsed from the monster, it showed no signs of compromise. Yoda remained patient. He simply stated that while he didn't want to cause the mountain any harm, he could not let it pass him and potentially cause harm to both tribes residing on the planet.
Wish to harm you I do not, but allowed to pass you shall not be.
The monster crumbled, growled, and bellowed and stomped before Yoda, some 1,000 meters below. It laughed at the Jedi Master.
Won't be enough of you left to bury, little monster.
And almost created a whirlwind of dust and rock every time it opened its mouth. The living mountain lifted one of its feet. The giant blue appendage was as large as any ridge of any mountain. Without any force behind it, the weight of his foot would be enough to shatter an entire city. But if he truly meant harm, and put his full weight behind it, one stomp from the mountain would be equal to the impact of an asteroid, and would be strong enough to decimate an entire continent. Here, now, in this fight with Yoda, the giant meant harm, but something miraculous happened. Yoda stuck his arm out. He was able to lift the mountain's foot away. Yoda was not just lifting dead weight, but resisting the downward push of the behemoth. The nearby enemy tribe meditated through the Force and tried to help the giant push through Yoda's resistance. But the Jedi Master was too powerful. Aggravated that such a small being was able to thwart his attack, the giant balled his massive arm into a fist the size of a cliff and struck down on Yoda. As his fingers smacked into the ground, a massive dust cloud rose above and filled the plain, and Yoda's body disappeared beneath. The natives held their breath. Some hoped for the Jedi Master's death. Others hoped for his survival. When the dust settled, and they looked closer, they could see a small blue flame sticking out of the giant's hand. It was Yoda's lightsaber. Before the hand struck him, Yoda had pierced it with his blade and held it back. With another wave of his hand, the Jedi Master did something incredible. He lifted the giant into the air and threw it back. Heavier than a Star Destroyer, the giant felt like nothing more than a pebble to Yoda. The living mountain couldn't believe that a creature so small could defeat him. While he sat on the ground trying to come to terms with what had just happened, the ground began to quell. Yoda was summoning all of the ancient giants of the world, long thought dead. They were rising out of the ground, all as large as giant mountains. They were rejoining the giant that Yoda had just fought. The Jedi Master realized his adversary wasn't truly evil and was just confused. So once he secured the safety of the peaceful village of natives that he was trying to protect, Yoda proceeded to help the giant, even though it had only just seconds before tried to stomp on him like an insect. In this moment, we got to see just how wise the Jedi could be. And perhaps by throwing the mountain into the air, we also got to see the most powerful use of Force ever recorded in the galaxy.